Today let's make gluten-free, low-fat, plant-based oatmeal cookies that actually taste good. I know that sounds crazy, but we're gonna do it. Okay, so what's the first thing we need?
The first thing we need, surprisingly enough, is oats.
Actually, the first thing we need to do is set your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put the Celsius right here. And have a food processor handy, because you do need a food processor for this one. You know, let me get this. That's in my way. All right, so what's first?
Space. It's the final frontier.
Oatmeal.
We need 2 cups of rolled oats, please.
This makes about 8 to 10 cookies, depending on how big you make them. I usually get 9. That's why I said 8 to 10. Yeah, these are rolled oats, not instant oats. Just regular old-fashioned oats. And then?
We need 4 dates. We are using
Deglet Nor.
Deglet Nor.
They're the smaller ones. If you're using the larger dates, you probably only need 2. Yeah.
One of the most important things is to make sure they're pitted.
Oh, yeah. You don't want pits in these because that'll hurt your food processor and probably make the cookies even more crunchy than you want them to be.
Ta-da!
Now what?
And then we pulse.
Okay. What you want to do is pulse this down to more than a flour, but smaller than they are now. I'll show you what it looks like after I pulse it. You're looking for something like that. It looks kind of still like oatmeal, but not exactly.
Now, a trick that you may want to implement in your making of these cookies is to pulse the dates first.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because they get kind of annoying and in the way, and
Yeah,
you might...
they're chunky.
Yeah, so, you know.
But it's not crucial.
They'll be like extra raisins.
Yeah.
Now we're going to add some seasoning. First up is cinnamon. Get the best quality cinnamon you can get. And if it's just generic store-bought cinnamon, it's okay. We're not going to tell anybody.
How much do we need?
A teaspoon.
Yes, this is what it's like when we cook together.
Chaos.
And then
And then some baking powder.
gives it a little bit of a lift. You can leave it out if you really want to, but it does actually help with the texture slightly.
And it's a teaspoon of that too. I know I just used this teaspoon for the cinnamon, so Brian's going to get a paper towel and wipe it off good so I don't contaminate.
I don't want cinnamon in my baking powder. You know, I use these for other things too. Cleanliness is important.
All right, we're cinnamon free now.
I almost just flipped the
That would-
spoon of oatmeal all over the place.
Okay.
Notice I'm mixing this stuff in as she's putting it in here. You don't have to. You can wait till it's all in there to mix it.
And now we're going to add some salt. We have found that if you don't add salt into a cookie, they just end up
They taste a
tasting
little weird. How much do we need?
Half teaspoon. So we're barely putting salt in there.
By the way, this is the difference between the way we cook. I made up this recipe and didn't measure anything and told her to write down these measurements, and she's measuring them exactly. It's kind of funny. Anyway, oh, this one's really big.
See, that's why I suggested blitzing the dates first.
But I'm impatient.
I know.
And they're actually kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
So it's
they're,
not.
they're super soft, so
Yeah.
it's no big.
Now my hands are sticky. Anyway, next.
So next up is our moist ingredients. If you notice, we haven't added any oil. We haven't added any butter-like stuff.
And we won't be
And
adding.
we're not gonna. Instead, we're using applesauce.
Applesauce is a great oil replacement in baked goods.
It
works
also
really, really well.
kind of is a combination of the fats and egg together in one.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the oats cover the egg part, actually.
right, but in other baking things, I've seen people use
Yeah, yeah.
applesauce as a replacement for eggs. We need a half cup, but I didn't get a spoon. Are we just going to glug into our half cup guy? Will that work?
Sure. It should come out.
Now this is unsweetened
Yes.
applesauce.
Definitely unsweetened, unflavored applesauce.
And if you don't want to buy store-bought applesauce,
I think we have a
Brian
video.
has a really simple and delicious applesauce video. I'll make sure to link it in the description below so you can make your own.
I just didn't have time to make it for these, so. Use a smaller spoonula to get it all out. I will tell you that right now. I give up. That's it. I'm done.
You did
It's good.
You did good. You did good. All right, next up is some more sweetener and also more liquid because we're pretty dry still. And that is maple syrup. We are going to go ahead and do 2 full tablespoons of maple syrup.
Just want to point something out. Look at the lid on this maple syrup. See how it has like a little rim? That is so clever because when you pour it out, a tablespoon?
2.
2 tablespoons? All right, I'll measure. When you pour it out, you always have that one drip at the end. It gets caught in that little rim. I love that. And this is Maple Gold 100% maple syrup. Got it at Publix, I think.
I'll see if Amazon has it, and if they do, I'll make sure to link it.
Okay, 2 tablespoons.
Yep.
We initially did this without the dates and used a little bit more maple syrup. So you can do that if you want to. And you can play around with the sweetness level. These don't come out to be super sickly sweet. They're just sweet enough.
And finally, it wouldn't be oatmeal raisin cookies without some raisins, right? So we're going to do a 1/4 cup of raisins. And Brian wanted me to use this, and I'm not really sure how that's going to work. So I'm just going to give the bottle to Brian. Ta-da! 1/4 cup.
That's how I do things all the time. I suppose you could probably leave the raisins out and just use dates.
Sure.
You can make date oatmeal
Any
cookies.
dried fruit.
Yeah.
You could do cranberries, you could do cherries,
Yeah, I
blueberries.
never even thought about that.
Do a mixture.
Okay.
A mixture of dried fruit might be really great if you want to
Melange.
serve these for the holidays.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you go beyond our 1/4 cup recommendation, it's going to cause an issue of binding the cookies together because those big
I've
chunks,
tried with more and it doesn't work.
they get in the way.
I need to wash my hands. I'll be right back. Bothers me. Now that we have everything in the bowl, you really want to mix this up really good because there's a lot of various textures and moisture levels of ingredients here. You want to make sure they're all mixed through because if any of that oatmeal doesn't get hit with liquid, it won't do the binding thing that it's meant to do. So
if you think about oatmeal, for example, you know, when you cook oatmeal, it's sort of gels a little bit.
Yep.
It's that property of oats that we're using to make as our binder for these cookies.
right. So just give it a few minutes. I'll probably fast forward this part so you don't have to see it all. All right, I think I did it. I'm just breaking it up a little bit to see here. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Okay, now a little cheat that I do is I get a little bit of water first. This is important. Get out the baking tray, please.
I have put a Silpat into our baking tray to make it easier for me to clean up.
Okay, the cheat that I do is, see how I'm flattening this all out? I'm kind of forming it into a bit of a square in the bowl, right? And I'm gonna mark off 9. That's how I always get 9, because it's so much easier to do 9 than 10 or 8. If you really want to measure them, feel free. I don't bother. I just roughly get about 9, like that. And then wet your hand. That way it doesn't stick to you as much. I have a thing about stuff sticking to my fingers and my hands. I just don't like it. It's just not something that I care for. Okay, so done with that. Then with wet hands, you just scoop out one of those 9 pieces, try to get all of it, and then form your cookies. It's really, you know, this isn't exactly rocket science. If you've never formed a cookie before, I will show you how to form a cookie. You put it in your hand, kind of like making meatballs, and then you make them flat. See, flatten them out. That one seems kind of on the smallish side, but we'll see how this goes. See, if you don't get them all evenly in dignity, then, you know, sometimes that happens, but it's okay. You just add a little to one or take a little away from another. It's all good. Don't get crazy. They're just cookies. Keep your hands moist so that nothing really sticks. And you're kind of adding a little bit of moisture to the cookies too. So it's not a bad thing. It helps. Every little bit helps. And that one is definitely too small. I will fix that in a minute.
Looks like this one might have excess.
Yes, there's excess everywhere. My cutting was not precise at all. But, you know, you do what you can. It's home cooking. If somebody complains that your cookies are not all the same size, don't give them any.
Cookies.
All right, but this is probably pretty boring at this point, so we're just going to fast forward, and I'm going to make a bunch of cookies and show you when we're done. All right, you know that one guy that was too small? Well, you know what? I cheated. I took some from another one and just added it to him. That's all you do. Okay, our cookies are now ready to go in the oven, 350 degrees for
14 minutes or so.
Yep, 14, 15 minutes. You want to check them after 14 minutes. You want them to be just lightly golden brown. You do not want burn. And they should look like they're not quite done cooking when you take them out of the oven. We'll be back in a few to show you that. 14 minutes are up. Cookies are done.
They smell so good.
They really, really do. But what I want to do now is, I actually did this wrong. Can we take the rack out of there?
You want it this way and this way?
Sure. Watch your hands. Because as much as they're done, you want them to cool before you eat them. Right now, first, they would burn you because they just came out of a 350 degree oven. And second, they're not really fully done. So I want to just remove them to a rack. If you put them on a plate, we found out the other day, it leaves too much condensation. So I don't think that's very good for the bottoms. You know, nobody likes soggy bottoms on your cookies. So I want to get them out of the tray and onto this. If you don't have these gloves, Derica can link them. They're awesome. I've had them for years. I'm almost ready for a new pair because I've actually burned some of the tips off in spots. Had them for years though, like 5 years, 6 years. They're like lineman gloves, good to like 500 degrees. Okay, so these are gonna sit for like half an hour.
As long as we can bear it. They're going to be right here. They smell fantastic.
We'll be back with the tasting once they've cooled down a little bit. Now it's the best part of every cooking video where we get to taste these things. So they've been sitting for a little while, and as you can see, they're kind of, they're puffy a little bit, but not too much. And let me break this in half just to show you. Look at that. See, it's still kind of got a chewy texture to it. That's what you want. You gonna grab one?
I was just waiting.
You're being awful patient. Okay. They're moist, but not overly so. Really great flavor. Definitely comes through as oatmeal. A little bit of sweetness, but not overly so. Kind of like these cookies should be, because when you make them just sugary sweet, they're kind of gross.
I think they're fantastic. Considering what isn't in them.
Yeah.
What
no oil, no eggs, no fat, basically.
It's a cookie. It's a tasty cookie.
And this is also completely whole food ingredients. This is all whole food, plant-based ingredients. Absolutely wonderful. Storage options. I don't know that I would store these in the fridge. You might be able to freeze them. We haven't tried that, but really they're so easy to make. Like it literally takes 5 minutes to put it together and then 15 minutes in the oven. In 20 minutes, you got cookies. Just leave them on a plate covered with plastic wrap on the table. When they're gone, make another batch. I mean, that's pretty much what we do.
So my best advice to you is to make this cookie.
And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on The Bistro.